Hey everyone, it's the Shawn. Welcome to another edition of the Influencer of Tomorrow show. I'm joined today by both my regular co-host George Hendley down below. We'll talk about him in a minute, and also Debbie Mrazek, who I've known for quite a while through our Dallas circles. We're going to be talking about building influence and also building relationships the right way. It is an overplayed thing out there today. People talk about relationship selling and building relationships. The reason we picked Deb for this topic is she walks the walk. I've known her for a long time. She builds great relationships with people. She builds that network, and that leads to building her business. And it's a great example of how to actually do it rather than just say the words. So we'll be diving into that a little bit. For those that don't know us as well, maybe tuning in for the first time for the show, George Hendley is deep in the presentations world. He coaches, mentors, teaches people. What I love about George, and I've worked with George, is he knows all the leading authorities on speaking. He knows what everybody's doing, and he brings all the right pieces together for his clients and say, have you seen what this person's doing over here? Have you read this book? Fantastic resource for that. I'm the Shawn. I'm a corporate lawyer by training. I help people with ownership and control of their business. That's mergers, that's partnership agreements, it's capital raises, contract negotiations. I also tell people do business differently. So you'll see I don't look like every other lawyer out there. We just try to do business differently and find what's unique and different for each of us to help fuel success. And that's a theme you'll see here. Most of my work talks about the future of business, and specifically the future of business planning, which is where this comes in. It is my strong belief, and George shares his belief, that the future of business is about having brands, about being distinguished, and having skills that come to the table to help your clients. So I think that's a theme you'll see again today as we dive in today's show. We love your comments. So wherever you're watching, if it's the Influencer of Tomorrow YouTube channel, if it's one of our LinkedIn feeds, if it's Shawn McBride fans and audiences on Facebook, wherever you're watching, drop your comments. We'll read them. We'll respond to them. We may do another show based on something you tell us. We definitely want to hear from you, so make sure you get that in there. And I always remind folks, we do not do investment advice on the show, and we do not do legal advice. This is all just for your education. If you need investment advice, legal advice, anything like that, go talk to your own professional advisor. So with that, welcome to the show, Deb. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
This is going to be a lot of fun. I've known you, and I just know that you go deep with people, right? You get to know people, you understand them, you understand their business. Why don't you talk a little bit about kind of just that philosophy that underlies what you do before we get a little deeper into the influence in the future?
You bet. So when I started my career, I started in Houston in the seismic industry, and that was the only industry. And there were not many women in the business at that time. People didn't talk about relationship selling, as that was not a terminology that was used. But in Houston, if you were going, and I intended to be in sales for a long time. I worked for Texas Instruments. I sold semiconductors and went on and sold contract manufacturing, printed circuit boards, those kinds of things. But in Houston, you have this one industry. And so I felt like, I really needed to know them because I intended to live there for the next, 20 or 30 years. And so really getting to know people. They did not know me. They had not done, my company was new that I was working for. Texas Instruments spun us out into another company. And so just getting to know people was intuitively what I thought I needed to do in order to gain what I know now was their trust, in order to do business with them, and then to continue to do business with them. Because, the thing with sales, I thought, well, if you could get to know one customer, get to know them great, do great business, have great deliverables, then they would hire you again, not hire you, but buy your product again and again. So fast forward to today, this is the third business I have had. And I believe that relationship is everything. I do business with people today that I have known for 30 years. No, I don't do business with them every single year, but I do keep in touch with them. I communicate with them, and we have relationships, whether it is from having done business one time, maybe we knew each other through something completely different. George and I were just talking before we started. He used to live in Richardson. I was very involved in Richardson when I moved to Dallas, because that was where the technology center of the world was, in Dallas, and evolved, from that. So I just believe that relationship, if you are intending to do what you do for a very long time, I think that is, if you were building a house, that's the foundation.
Yeah. So, okay, so that's just the philosophy of getting the right foundation, getting started. I always tell people lay the foundation first when we're talking about business planning, right? Know what your plan is, know where you're going. So many people jump out of the box. They are going because they're listening to advice of other people, but they didn't stop and say, what am I trying to build here, right? They start getting the walls up before they say, what do we want it to look like when we finish, right? So we have that mistake a lot. So I get that philosophy of laying the foundation, the relationships, the foundation. How does that impact how you build influence, how you work with other people, how you get your message out? How does those two pieces fit together?
You bet. So I intend to, I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if anybody's listening in, not familiar with us. And so I plan on living here forever. And so if I want to live here forever and do business here forever, I'm not on the retirement track. I feel like I need to be of integrity. How you experience me, I hope it's how George experiences me, how somebody else experienced me, is being who I am, being authentic, being honest, genuinely caring, always wanting to listen to others, really to understand, because in consulting and coaching, which I eventually evolved to, I found that was all about relationship, and getting to know quickly who you were dealing with, and then wanting to be part of their business, ongoing. So I just feel you need to be real intentional about who you are and be honest about who you are at all times, so that, it was kind of like when I wrote my first book. I had an editor for it, and she read it and said, oh, this is great. Well, I actually hired a second editor to read that book and said, when you read this book, does this say Debbie Mrazek to you?
Yep. Well, I think there's something to be said for that, right? And I think that's important. And that's where I think a lot of people get into a trap as they're building their businesses, right? Is they change who they are. They'll go speak to one audience and they'll use one voice and one message. They'll speak to a different audience, different message, and it just resonates wrong. Like myself, I speak on many topics. If it touches business planning, I'll hit it potentially with an audience, but it's always the same Shawn, right? And it's the Shawn with the crazy suit because I do business differently. It's a message. A lot of people I see that have difficulty scaling their business do exactly the opposite of what you say, right? So they maybe one time they're one person and then another time they're somebody else, right?
Absolutely.
So you have to have that consistency, and that consistency allows you to deepen those relationships.
Absolutely. And I'll go back to Houston for a moment, because in the seismic industry at that time, this was in the 80s, there were not women in that business. So yeah. I'll tell this on myself. So I literally, I'm not exaggerating here. I wore a serious dark suit every day, a white, starched shirt, closed-toed shoes. I did not laugh. I did not engage with you asking, anything, what do you do when you're not here? Any of that.
Right.
And I had success, but one day somebody took me aside and said, Deb, the sooner you start being really who you are, the much better this is going to be.
Yeah.
Because that really was not me, just to come in and go, okay, here's what I have, here's what I do. Do you want it? You don't? Okay, go on.
Right.
And, I feel like I was me. I was honest, I was pleasant. I was, of integrity. But, when I really started being me and who I am, where I am fun, I am full of life, I do care. I care. I believe being kind is important. I believe in taking care of other people. When I started behaving that way, that person was right. My business skyrocketed. And so from that day to this, I have found, even though I may not look like the other guys or the other whoever, I may not act like them, but there is a place in the world for me to be who I am in and out every day and be successful being me.
Well, part of the thing is it endears trust in this world that we live in today, right? Because so many people are so, and I don't know the right word, whether it's corporate or so buttoned up or they feel like they have to fit in some box.
Yes.
When you are just yourself and you bring elements of yourself, and, it doesn't have to be this crazy suit, but you bring some elements. For me, I used to speak on stage and people would always say, well, you're not like any other lawyer, right? So everybody told me dress like a lawyer, look like a lawyer, and I'd look like a lawyer. I'd get on a stage, I'd give my presentation, I'd walk off the stage and I'd be like, well, you're not like every other lawyer. I mean, that people would walk up from the audience and tell me that.
Exactly.
And so I had to break the mold, right? And I just show people from the beginning, like, I'm not like every other lawyer. But the message is really, show them something. It doesn't have to be a suit, doesn't have to be, some people use attire. It could be something in your messaging, but show them some way that you're bringing your real self into the conversation.
Absolutely. And, that deal with the suit, Shawn, really was like what I was doing in Houston.
Yeah.
I did look like every other gentleman that walked into Dresser Industry, Schlumberger, Brown and Root in Houston, Texas, in a dark suit, a white shirt, except they had on a tie.
Yeah.
And that really was not me. And the first time I have to tell you, I felt extremely uncomfortable, showing up in what I would call a pretty dress that was of color, had cute earrings, had my hair, kind of thing, which was me. And you know what? The world did not end.
Right.
People were like, oh, you look nice or whatever. But it was like, I felt like me then when I walked there versus who I had been trying. I had been trying to be those gentlemen and not me. I intentionally was trying to be them, what I thought they were. Yes.
Yes. There's no point in veiling yourself, right? I mean, because it hurts the trust. I mean, some people, there's this argument, right? People are like, well, if you're too different or stand out, then some people are going to get offended. But you're going to offend some people. But the other group of people are going to say, well, I know who that person really is, right? I trust them. I may not even agree with them. I may not even like their attire. I may not like what they say. But you know what? I think this person stand up and I can do business with them because they're showing me who they are.
And that is the deal. That's the thing right there. This is one of the things in sales. People get upset with salespeople. It's like a bait and switch. Mm-hmm. Like you show up this way and they think, oh, they're great. They're doing this. And then they give them the order and then it's a completely different thing. Right. I think be who you are at all times, that there is something for you. And I think the other thing today, and for our audience, surely, we are so connected with the entire world. Like I have always done business around the globe and continue to do that today. But it is that, whatever is you, whoever it is you think you want to work with, whatever it is you want to do, you want to offer, you can now find those people. Yes, it takes time, but those people are out there and you can find whatever your niche is. There are people for you that are going to relate to you and be happy about you. And you need not worry about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, and people want that now, right? They want that highly personalized, connected service. So I think that's important. So Deb, let's talk a little more about what you're building here for the future. I know you've got some great books out there. You work with a lot of people. What's your vision? What's your path for the future as you're building your influence in your business?
Very good. So one of the things that I have experienced doing consulting and coaching, and as the internet came to be in the last 20 years, that it could be with anybody, anywhere, really came home for me when I published my first book, and this has been like 10 years ago. And that book, so it's just me. I am the business, the sales company, but that book sold on every continent on the globe. Every continent. And I'm not saying I sold 10 million. I'm not Tom Clancy. I didn't do that. This was thousands, not millions. But here was the deal. It was like watching a movie and the movie was you, in that, oh my gosh, there are people that will buy me my, what I think, what I feel everywhere in the world. And that really expanded what I was doing in my head, because I thought, well, I did a lot of business with people in Japan, and that was wonderful. But I thought that was because of a relationship I had with somebody here in Dallas that made that possible. So that's the only reason that happened. But the fact of the matter is, there were other people in Japan that didn't know those people in Japan that were just fine with me. So it really opened up the world. So today where I am is intentionally trying to put my message out there in a way that the world can receive. The other thing I learned in that book, Selling on Every Continent, and I should have said this before, that book was only published in English.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So it was not another language. So just the thought that there's English speaking, understanding, educated people all over the globe really opened my eyes to what's possible. So today, trying to get my message out, I have developed, most of my business still is coaching, consulting, and I do speaking for fee. But I also developed a program I call Great Salespeople, which is just a membership program. So just $37 a month is a little bit of me every week and helping people, and they can ask questions, and it's a community. And what I would love to see, 5 years from now, is that be a global community that people know if they want to do sales, they want to do sales in America, that this is a place that they could come and people they could trust, not just me, but the community that they could trust and ask what they need to ask to really be able to grow their business.
Yep. I think that's a great thing, is to build communities, right? That seems to be the
Absolutely. We don't do it by ourselves, even if we're one-person businesses.
Absolutely. We stand on the shoulders of everybody else, and there's a lot of literature out there, and it's very common. I've read entire books that talk about how, knowledge base grows. That's just the way humankind works, right? One human integrates, another person builds on it. And even those of us that are in thought leadership businesses, usually we're bringing elements of many thought leaders together and blending it in some custom way that is unique to us and unique to the needs of our audiences.
And Shawn, to that point, I had a client very young who, it was an opportunity that I went in, and I'll be frank with you, I thought I was walking out with the order that day. I thought I was just that good, the joy of being young. And the CEO actually walked with me out to the car, and he said, "Debbie, don't do that again."
What'd you do?
What did I do? And he said, I went in there saying, you have to do this, 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 this. And I did not take into account the people who were at the table. Yeah. And what you just said triggered that, in that he said, every person that's at that table came from a different level of experiences.
Yep.
All through their life that bring them to who they are today, the opinions, the way they think, that right there. And the fact that you think you can walk in one time, tell them one thing, and they're all going to do that is insanity. Don't do that again. So, the fact is, every single one of us come to who we are, even though, yes, we learned from this, or we learned from that, or we went here, or we learned this, or we taught this, or that kind of thing and all. It's still you. It's what you bring to it. It's okay that you have pieces of all these other people's work or communities' work. It's still you and how you deliver it that makes it viable.
Yeah, you come up with that custom blend that adds so much value to other people and gets them going. So you've got your community going, you've got great people in there, you're learning from each other. And I think that's one of the waves of the future, right? Because that human interaction, the discussion, that is going to be critical to the future, because mechanization, automation, AI, all that's coming. And it's going to take all the stuff that's routine and just, it's just going to do it for us. So I think the future sales leaders, and I think you're on the same page from what I'm hearing, are going to be people that can deepen the relationships, can understand other people, and can see things that the computers can't see.
So, and that is, my whole career, I started in technology. I wish I could tell you there was a grand plan to that, but there wasn't. I lived in Lubbock, went to Texas Tech, and the only thing in there was banking, oil, cotton, and Texas Instruments. So I picked TI. So got into technology. But no matter what the technology is today, whatever you use, especially in sales, there's brilliant CRM systems, follow-up systems. At the end of the day, it is still people buy from people. People make decisions about who to buy from. Yes, we use the technology to enhance the experience, to ship it differently, to make it differently, whatever. But the absolute fundamental thing of sales is people. And until it's not, I can't imagine that it won't be. People buy from people. So that's why you always have to have those skills and be able to communicate.
Yeah. So what will we see here for the next year or two as you roll this out? And I'd love for you to talk again about your community, just so listeners, if it resonates with somebody, so they can find you. But what do you see in the next couple of years as your business expands?
I think what we'll see is where a lot of people have in the past, you would say you were young, so you couldn't do this. What we all now have is access. We have access to so much information, so many people. And in my community, when I say this $37 a month, what I mean by that is no one has had access to me in 20 years for $37 a month.
Yep.
I charge thousands for coaching, consulting, speaking, those kind of things. That is the only way you could experience me until I published my first book. And then I thought, that's $25. So, for $25, somebody could have a piece of me that way. I never dreamed that there would be a model for me, that people could have a piece of me and I could talk to them even one-on-one through technology. And that's what I believe. I think this will completely change. Nothing would make me happier than having a community of 5,000 people all over the world that are like me, who care about other people, who believe in networking, believe in helping other people, believe that we all don't need to know everything about everything. And it's okay to ask whether I am 27 or I am 87. It is okay to ask, and for me to try it, and for somebody to champion me and cheer me on. So that's really what I think I would have never dreamed this is what technology would end up being able to do for me. I thought technology, all it would ever do for me is like this great computer, this wonderful screen I have on my desk, this camera I have, this technology like Zoom that we're using today.
Right.
I thought that's what technology. I never dreamed that technology would take me to the world, and the world would be able to find me.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So how do people find your community? How do they find your website? How do they find your books? What do you?
So for great salespeople, it's great-sales-people.com. And for my company, it's the sales company. It's the-sales-company.com. There's a trend here.
Yeah,
and so
I see
you
that.
can find me there. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Debbie Mrazek, and I would love for you to plug in and link in with me there. I have a fantastic community there. I have a golden Rolodex, so if there's somebody I know that you need to know, I'd be delighted to introduce you and connect with you.
Yeah, fantastic, folks. So check out Deb's work. I know she put some great stuff up there on LinkedIn in particular. Drop your comments below. We'll be reading through them. We want to see what you're seeing, what's going on out there. I always ask the audience, take a moment, pat yourself on the back for doing the hard work, for investing in yourself, watching this show, thinking about your future, building that. It really is important. I want to remind you, you can check out past episodes and upcoming episodes at influenceroftomorrow.com. You can also get on our mailing list over there. So go check that out. And Deb, thanks for taking some time with us. It was really a lot of fun.
You bet. Thank you all.